Our own planet is only a tiny part of the vast cosmic tapestry, a starry fabric of worlds yet untold.
For the next 90 minutes, your mind shall become engaged with minds that are very much like your own. Join Paul Cagle, Sushi and Spring Wolf as they discuss various topics and people that we all have questions about. You're taking part in the Ænigma Project.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Ænigma Project. My name is Paul Cagle and tonight we will be talking about Men in Black and playing Truth or Tale. But first I would like to introduce my cohorts in this madness, Spring Wolf.
Hello, hello.
And Sushi.
Hey everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Better than
okay.
Paul.
Yeah.
Better. I've reached that point where I just don't care anymore.
Me
It
too.
is what it is.
Oh.
Yep. Me too. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, let's
I was
try-
thinking
let's
the
try
other
to-
day, when I say hello on the show, it's hello, hello, hello. And I'm trying to remember what movie that comes from. It's a 1960 movie.
Hello, hello. Wasn't that
Hello,
a British,
hello, hello.
Wasn't that a British sitcom?
Could
Hello,
be.
hello.
I know they did it on Austin Powers too, I think.
When I never watched that one, I was thinking it was Monty Python.
That's very possible.
Yeah.
Yes,
Let's
because
see.
I always love run away, run away.
Yeah. Me too.
Oh, it's Allo, Allo.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello is a BBC British sitcom. So A-L-L-O, Allo, Allo.
Oh. Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Diverted. Go ahead.
We have
Sorry.
digressed majorly.
Sorry.
Before we get this madness started, I want to remind everyone to check out our blog at ænigmaproject.com, and you can see shows that we have coming up there. You can subscribe to the calendar we have for shows coming up, and you can send us questions or comments for the show. You can also send them to Paul at ænigmaproject.com or call the hotline at 423-521-2930, and we can play your question or comment on the show. Don't forget to check out Spring's blog at springwolf.net, and please help spread the word about the show. Now, our show for next week is going to be Astrology Around the World, and Spring is going to tell us every single astrology around the world, and she's going to tell us what the difference and similarities are with every single one of them.
It's nice to have dreams.
Yeah, those are the questions I'm going to ask. That's all I'm saying. But it's going to be astrology around the world. And if you missed last week's show, it was Ghost Brothers, the Delta Queen episode that Sushi and I were on. You're welcome. If you're listening live to this right now, either on Twitter or Facebook, you can visit us at ænigmaproject.com/listen-live and join us in the chat room and sharing all the fun that we're having there. Woo, freaking who. Hi, Rick. Rick's in the chat room. And everyone thank Rick because this was Rick's topic. He sent me a couple of topics and said, hey, I'm curious about these. Mothman and Men in Black. And I was like, sure, we'll just do them together. Yeah, Mothman, Men in Black. No, I'm just kidding. But so that's how this got started. So thanks, Rick. And I'm done with the show. How about you guys?
Okay, according to Google, it's hello, hello, hello. What's all this going on here? And it's from Monty Python.
Well, there you go.
This
There you
parrot
go.
has ceased to be. It is no more. It is an ex-parrot. Always love some of their stuff. But, yeah.
Holy Grail is my most favorite.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
Knights of Ni.
I laughed until I cried the first time I saw that one. But anyway, okay, so Men in Black. I liked the first movie. I thought it was really good. And then after that, there were a couple of good ones after that, but
I just don't think that's the angle he was reaching for there, Paul.
oh, my bad. So sorry. Well then, Sushi, back to you.
Gosh, it's interesting that he brought it up. especially like at the same time he brings up the Mothman, because apparently, and I have not read the Mothman prophecies, but apparently John Keel brings it up in his book, brings up the MIB.
Really?
Yeah, and so yeah, John Keel in the Mothman prophecies talks about the MIB, as did Gary Baker in They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers in 1956. So the MIB are said to favor older model dark Cadillacs.
Well, that's when all this got started. But, according to Wikipedia, in popular culture and UFO conspiracy theories, men in black, or MIB, are men dressed in black suits who claim to be government agents and who harass or threaten UFO witnesses to keep them quiet about what they've seen. It is sometimes implied that they may be aliens themselves. The term is also frequently used to describe mysterious men working for unknown organizations. Now, I was trying to find, like, when the Men in Black thing first got started, the whole idea of government officials covering this up. And one of the first stories that I found was 1947. Harold Dahl reported seeing a group of UFOs while he was on his boat in Washington's Puget Sound. Soon after, he said he was approached by a black-suited individual who threatened him and his family if he ever talked about the UFO sightings again. So 1947 was the earliest occurrence I've seen. But, it's not surprising to find out that it happened right around the time when people are starting to see UFOs.
Or at least report them, right?
Yeah. So, I think it's interesting, UFOs start popping up, and what does the government do? Go and start a secret organization for it. I don't know. But
I don't know.
Why do you think, if Men in Black really did this, why do you guys think they were threatening people to keep them quiet?
Well, you got to think right around then. When did the spaceship supposedly crash that ended up in Area 51?
40s.
Wasn't that about the same
Yeah,
time?
40s.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that, if there was an organization that started then, first of all, wearing the black hats, wearing a hat was a thing you did in the 40s. So that doesn't surprise me.
Right.
The idea of why they would show up to discredit people that did talk or threaten people not to talk, I think they want, if it happened, it would make perfect sense to me. They'd want to keep these things quiet out of public purview so they could figure out how to weaponize technology, re-engineer, reverse engineer.
Yeah. And, that's interesting. Interesting point. If Roswell did or didn't happen, people were still accusing them of reverse engineering things. Maybe they thought they really could if they got their hands on something. So the government started an agency to hunt down these things, trying to interact with the UFOs and get technology.
One of the best conspiracy theories I ever read about all of that stuff was up into the 1940s, the progression of the industrialization of the world took time. Things went along for a couple years, took, a decade or so for something to get designed and tested and implemented and released to the world. And, it took time. But after the 1940s, especially after the late 1940s, things started happening much, much faster. And the conspiracy story that I read believed that they were able to reverse engineer technology from the crashed spaceship and develop, the back then computers weren't like they are today, of course, but they were still pretty amazing for what it was that we knew.
Right.
At the time. That's always been the best conspiracy theory I ever read.
Yeah.
I liked that one. I don't know if it's true or not, but I did like it. It had a lot of stuff in it that made sense to me.
Yeah. And Juicy?
have you ever heard of them called the synthetics?
No,
See,
I
that's a
haven't.
new one on me too. I was just kind of bouncing around on this article, and they call them synthetics, meaning, I mean, in my mind, meaning not really human.
Right. And they may have thought, I mean, there are a lot of theories out there by ufologists about what men in black are. Some people believe that
Yes.
they are, government workers. Other believe they're aliens themselves trying to
Yeah.
hide their own agenda. And then some people may believe that they are artificial life forms, I guess. Um, but I, the thing that gets me is that there were UFO hunters for the government. That's not the right thing to call them, but back then, because they had, what was it called, Project Blue Book? Wasn't that the name of it? Where they went around trying to find UFOs. It was on TV for a while. They had like a once Project Blue Book became open, they they would actually show episodes of it. They made it into a TV show.
Hmm.
Let's see I'm looking it up right now. Um,
Well, the article I was talking about, reverse engineering, was called Project Serpo. I posted a link in the chat room.
Project Blue Book was one of the series of systematic studies of unidentified flying objects conducted by the United States Air Force. It started in 1952, and it was the third study of its kind. The first two were Project Sign, 1947, and Project Grudge, 1949. A termination order was given for the study in December 1969, and all activity under its auspices ceased in 1970. So, Project Blue Book had two goals: to determine if UFOs were a threat to national security, and two, to scientifically analyze UFO-related data. Now, do you think that, and this is a real agency, this really happened, so do you think that some people got the Project Blue Book people, agents, mixed up with Men in Black?
Hmm.
Hmm. No, I would think that they are different.
Well, they
I don't
probably
think
are,
if you're
but
actively going out to hunt or investigate the UFOs, you're going to be threatening people not to talk about them. You
well,
want them to talk about them.
right. But what I'm saying is like, uh, they see a UFO, they get a visit instead of saying the Air Force came and asked about it. They say, "Oh, it was a man in black that came," because it makes their story more real. It makes it more interesting.
Could be.
I was
I don't
looking
know.
here.
Yeah. It's maybe. I mean, that's entirely possible.
But I think it's interesting that it was right around the same time. Like 1944 was when they started the first one, and the second one was called Product Grudge. So that leads me to believe there was an issue there somewhere with someone. You don't call something a grudge if you're looking for friendlies. It just, it's a little weird.
Unless grudge is an acronym.
That's possible too. You may be right. But yeah. So I don't know, but I think it's interesting that they were right around the same time. That
Hmm.
the 40s. Well, of course, that's when the UFO explosion happened anyway. But I remember seeing a lot of those shows. We used to watch it on the weekends when the Project Blue Book show came on, and so I thought it was interesting.
Okay, I want to read you something here. No matter how you slice it, in the 1950s and 60s, it was a time of great achievement by mankind. Some of the best minds in the world came up with integrated circuit boards, which led the groundwork for the internet, communication satellites, which is like taking the communication frontier into hyperspace. Some things had been around for hundreds of years or more, but we did not discover a practical use for them until the 1950s, such as titanium and fiber optics. One of the more startling facts is that we had computers in 1947 when the UFOs crashed near Roswell, New Mexico, but they were as large as a house. Just 12 short years later, we had come up with the integrated circuit board. There was no evolution of the circuit board. One day it simply was. The invention of, or the practical use of, lasers, fiber optics, and the microchip were all put forward at the same time in 1958. Transistors, cordless technology, remote controls, pacemakers, unarmed aerial vehicles, things were being put out there at such a rapid pace that it took years to get them into the mainstream. Yet it took years to get them into the mainstream.
Yeah, there are a lot of UFO enthusiasts out there who believe that that the Roswell incident was reverse engineered everything they could get their hands on, and that's why technology made the jump that it did.
Yep. Well, it's some of the laboratories that sprung up around the same time, according to this article, was Bell Labs, Westinghouse Labs, Zenith Corporation, Hughes Aviation, Texas Instruments, were just some of the major contributions by the Department of Defense, which kind of goes with that conspiracy theory that the Department of Defense wanted to keep this stuff quiet because they wanted to use it or weaponize it.
Oh, I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't either.
And that's surprising for me to say on this show.
Yeah. That's true.
Well, that's true.
But I was looking up to see, I could see Men in Black being seen back in the 40s, but I'm still finding articles here in 2015 that say there are Men in Black still visiting people. If this is a real thing, if Men in Black are real, if they're really trying to keep something quiet, that's going to be impossible to do in today's age. Everyone has a cell phone with a camera on it. Mm-hmm. And like this says, date of sighting, March 2013, Sydney, Australia. Men in Black paid a visit to this guy in Australia who was seeing these UFOs over his neighborhood, and he even recorded lots of visits by their black helicopters. In the screenshot above, he missed a very big cloaked UFO in the scene, whatever. But it's, these things are still allegedly taking place, and I'm just wondering why. I could see, Sushi, what do you think about, like, the Men in Black in the 40s visiting people and trying to keep them quiet?
I was gonna say, if there were government agents going out and investigating all these claims of UFO activity, then maybe they were just trying to keep them quiet so they, wouldn't create a panic. I mean, because we saw what War of the Worlds did, and that was just a radio show.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's where all the stories started. Is there were government agents going out and investigating all these crazy claims, and they were like, brother, I think it'd be better if you just kept your mouth quiet, shut about this.
Yeah, and people were
so
like,
the world won't think you're crazy, and we don't want to create a panic, and
yeah, and
that's kind of where I think it all came from.
And people were already worried about war with Russia and everything else, so maybe it was just. But why would the government, send people out to do stuff like that? Bob, I know that normally you're a type clerk, but could you go threaten this guy and tell him to be quiet and just, yeah, that'd be great. Could you be back by noon and bring me a hoagie? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, it seems like a lot of work to, like, set government officials out to hush people, unless they really thought there was a bigger issue, either with the aliens. Maybe they just felt threatened by aliens.
I know, or maybe you think Cold War stuff too. I mean, this is 40s and 50s, right?
Yeah.
So they had government agents sneaking into everybody's business.
Yep. Yeah, it looks like right around 1947 was one of the first times with Harold Dahl. He claimed to be threatened by a man in a dark suit. And then mid-1950s, the ufologist Albert K. Bender claimed he was visited by men in dark suits who threatened and warned him not to continue investigating UFOs. And he believed that they were a government agency. But there's also this thing, that these people claimed it was a hoax. And it says, in this article, Gary Barker, my friend the myth maker, John C. Sherwood, claims that in the late 1960s, at the age of 18, he cooperated when Gary Barker urged him to develop a hoax, which Barker subsequently published, that they called the Black Men, 3 mysterious UFO inhabitants who silenced Sherwood's I can't even say that, but, just talking about how they perpetrated a hoax. But that's in the 60s. These started in the 40s,
I mean, he was doing a hoax and playing off of stories that were already out there.
Right. I don't know. I think it's interesting. But if this is not the government doing these things, then who is it?
Well, maybe like the movie, it's a private corporation that simply has influence with the government.
Like a bank?
Well, no. I mean, in Men in Black, they make the supposition that they're a corporation that doesn't necessarily answer to the government, which is why they have patented certain technology.
Right.
And they don't. I don't remember what they said in the movie. They don't answer to the government. It's the only thing I remember them saying in the movie.
Right. Sushi.
Okay, Tater cracked me up with his picture.
That's so cute. Little minion dressed up as a Men in Black.
Sushi, what do you think? If it's not the government, then who is it?
Oh, I think it's the government.
I know you, and I secretly know that you think it's aliens trying to keep everybody quiet.
Gotta be.
It's part of a shadow government.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've talked about the shadow government on our show before, kinda.
Yeah.
When we finally got that show on the air.
Yeah. Craziness. I don't know. I was trying to type.
What I wondered is, what would the advantage be?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I can understand back in the 40s and the 50s, because everybody was so scared of everything, the Cold War and nuclear weapons, worrying what Russia was going to do, and all of that other kind of stuff. I can kind of understand wanting to keep things quiet. But later on, starting about the late 70s and the 80s, what was the point?
Yeah.
Because most of us believed in that stuff anyway. Late 70s, early 80s, it's when Star Wars started coming out. Star Trek was popular, all that kind of stuff. I remember, I forget the movie, but people are scared about aliens coming to visit. I think it was Independence Day. And so they go up to the roof holding up signs, hello, welcome, take me with you.
Yeah.
So what harm would knowing about that stuff do to the world?
Well, I think maybe back in the 40s and 50s, it was to keep everyone from panicking, like Sushi said, to keep everybody kind of calm and not freaking out and not thinking, oh my God, we're being invaded, now first Russia, now aliens. But
I wonder when did War of the Worlds come out?
I thought it was in the...
That's a good question. Late, I'm trying to say 38, but I think it's later than that.
1953.
Oh my goodness. When did the book come out?
Yeah. But something that...
War of the Worlds, a science fiction novel by English author H.G. Wells, first serialized in 1897.
There it is. Wow,
So-
I was off. Sorry.
So I read this, and I think it's interesting. It said it's called Men in Black Facts. And it says appearance, often described as having olive complexions with Asian or gypsy-like features. Eyes are often described as strange, sometimes glowing. Clothing, new black suits, black hats and sunglasses, sometimes described as being made from strange materials. Speech, MIBs tend to speak in a monotonous, mechanical tone, often with a strange accent. Typical encounter, MIBs traveling in groups of up to 3 usually visit recent UFO witnesses and warn them not to report their their encounter. They often claim to represent some government agency and briefly flash official-looking IDs. You know what this is? These are black-eyed kids that have grown up. They're the adult version of black-eyed kids.
That's it. That's it. That's where the black-eyed kids went.
Okay, we gave misinformation. The radio show came out in 38. The movie came out in 53.
I was right. I feel better now.
I don't remember the 53 movie, but okay.
I do remember it.
I do.
It's a black and white one. Yeah, I remember it.
They made weird sounds that had the little triangular heads, and yeah, I remember that.
I wonder if Orson Welles... No, they spell it different. I was going to say, I wonder if Orson Welles was related to H.G. Wells, but they spell it different.
Yeah, he's got an extra E in there or something.
That would be cool.
That would be. Maybe that's why he was drawn to it.
Maybe.
The same last name.
So now I'm wondering, with the Men in Black facts the way they are, and the black-eyed kids, the stories are similar, wearing weird clothes, they talk a certain way, their skin is olive complected, there's something wrong with their eyes. I'm wondering if these stories are not one came from the other. Black-eyed kids came from Men in Black. Somebody, looked up these facts and went, let's make it smaller, make it a child, and then let's
just in the eyeballs.
Let's make it scary,
Well, see, that makes me think of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Really?
Yeah. Like, aliens came down and cloned real people, and it was easier to clone kids because they weren't so automatically afraid of them. So they cloned the kids. And the kids, after they got pea-potted,
Right.
they
That's
had
the
the black
official term?
eyes in the skin because they couldn't get it right.
I don't know. I think about the shadow figures too, Paul. The black shadow with the hat, and who knows?
That's true. I didn't think about that because some of them do have that hat. So you think that shadow figures and Men in Black are the same?
No.
I think you just said that.
I was just drawing a
I think
correlation
you
there.
said that they are the same. You heard it here first, people.
Comparing and contrasting.
Sushi will stake her reputation on it.
No, wait.
No, but I don't know. I could see it in the old days. I can see it in the 40s and 50s trying to keep people from freaking out. But, why in 2016 would that still be an issue?
Yeah, why are they still around?
It doesn't make any sense now.
Yeah, and
you might even be able to say that whatever we gained from the technology of a spacecraft from the late 40s, we have advanced that technology so far that we have gone beyond it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're always looking for new technology, new ways of doing things.
I don't know. You know what bugs me about that theory? Why can't we humans be smart enough? Why do people have to have stories about alien technology? Why can't we invent this stuff?
Well, I don't think it was. It didn't have anything
Maybe
to
we
do
could
with.
have. It would just take a lot longer.
Yeah, they weren't saying we're not intelligent enough. We're just saying it should have taken 3 decades instead of 1 to get all these things.
I think I put a little more faith in the human race there.
Well, I don't.
Oh
so,
my God, I don't.
So
Hell
we are
no.
definitely
People
on
are
opposite
stupid.
sides of the fence there. Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know, but it's interesting. It's almost. I don't know how to say this. If you look for alien invasion movies, you would think with a book, War of the Worlds, written in the late 1800s, at least you'd find some movies based on that kind of a horror perspective before the 1950s.
Yeah.
Even just one. But it looks like a lot of them started in the 1950s. Invasion from Mars was in 1953. Let's see, The Body Snatchers, I think that one was 53 too. Invasion of the Body Snatch. No, that was 56.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up because I was listening to something on NPR the other day about all the superhero movies that we're having right now.
Oh yeah.
Like this explosion of superheroes, and they were comparing it to the explosion of all the westerns, you know, in the spaghetti westerns in the 1950s, and I just think it's that back at that time, that was just one of the things they were having the explosions of. Well, let's have some alien invasion movies, and people were going to the movies to see that. And it's the same thing that's happening with the superhero movies right now. It's what we're paying to go see.
Well, and the superhero movies, we grew up with those comic books. Now we're older. We have the money. We can fund these projects, and we said we want to see them. And not just that, but the technology is there to be able to make it happen.
Well, and maybe that's the same thing with the 50s movies. Well, now we've got the technology to make it look like a spaceship is flying across the screen, and we can hide that little wire a little better now.
Yeah.
You know, so couldn't hide it real well, but you know, it was better. I just think that's a trend of Hollywood. And,
yeah.
I don't know. I think some of the modern movies are just based on comic books from the 50s. You know, I don't know if you can say that, you know, the way they can do movie technology, science fiction, you know, green screens and digital stuff could be behind the explosion, because we can now make it look more real. I think it's just because Hollywood cleaned up and nobody does drugs anymore. They don't have any new ideas.
Well, we know that's not true. Now, they may be out of ideas, but they've not cleaned up.
Yeah. Well, there's, you know, I love black and white movies. I love the old campy movies. You know, sometimes they just make you laugh. Sometimes you want to see something that's not all blood and gore. You know, so I remember watching all of those movies from the 50s when I was younger. I'd watch them today if they came on more often.
Yeah.
Like The Blob. I loved The Blob, the original, you know, 1958 version of The Blob. I liked that one.
Yeah. Yeah, they had some really good movies back then, but
Earth versus the Flying Saucer.
So, you know, they've got stuff on here about Men in Black, the real Men in Black. They've got photos of Men in Black. They talk about these people that threaten people, and just, I mean, they even have stories about these individuals, like with like a penny in his hand, and it changes color, and it gets fuzzy, and you know they're trying to destroy the information in the person's mind, you know. So it takes on a more sinister cast. It almost sounds like aliens themselves are trying to put this out, to try to get the knowledge out of the common populace, I guess. Then why aren't they being more careful? You know, if aliens are going to come to Earth, why don't they hide better instead of having to go through and erase people's minds or threaten them?
And why are they all wearing black suits?
Probably cheapest color to buy. It doesn't show blood as well either. I've heard. I've heard.
So I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
But yeah, it's.
You know, I think it's interesting that those most of the people that you hear about, the men in black visiting, are the average citizen, and it's the government, known government sources, that when someone with authority tries to talk about UFOs and what they saw and what was real to them and all that kind of stuff, the government discredits those people. I mean, those people were perfectly sane. They had good, you know, records, good military records, good career reviews and all of that other kind of stuff. But then when they started talking about UFOs, all of a sudden those people are crazy. They're misinformed, or they want to seem more important than they are, and every other excuse the government can come up with to discredit them. How come the men in black didn't discredit those people?
Well, because they don't want the information getting out there. Are you saying why aren't they discrediting the people that are discrediting people?
No, why
Oh.
why isn't the Men in Black threatening those people? Why is it left to the government to discredit those people? Because the information already got out? Because they're a more reliable source?
Well, I think at this point, especially in today's age, there aren't enough men in black to be able to cover everybody that's had UFO experience. But, I don't know, back in the day, maybe the government just felt like dealing with it on their own, keep it inside, clean your own house before you have somebody else clean it. Sushi, what do you think?
So, what?
Well,
Still trying to follow what?
a government official comes forward and says, yes, UFOs are real. She's saying, why don't the Men in Black deal with it? Why does the government deal with their own employees instead of letting somebody else do it?
I don't.
I mean, what would be the point of them discrediting their own people instead of having them threatened by Men in Black?
Oh.
Well, here's a story. Let's see if it'll answer the question. This is supposed to be a real story about somebody that was visited by the Men in Black. His name was Albert Bender. He was a director of an amateur organization called the International Flying Saucer Bureau, and he believed that he had finally collected irrefutable evidence. I can't say that word. Irrefutable evidence that he had finally compiled that had blown. I've lost my place.
Welcome to my world.
Let's see. He blew the lid off of flying saucer thing. He owned a publication called Space Review in which he planned to spread his discovery. After compiling all of his collected wisdom on the matter, he mailed it to a friend to look over before he could unveil it to the world. Unfortunately, this attracted the attention of the Men in Black, who decided it was time to pay him a visit. Bender recounts a story. A couple of days later, he was on his bed when he suddenly felt a dizzy spell. He noticed several dark shapes in the room with him that slowly materialized into men in black suits with black hats obscuring their eyes and their faces. He noticed in particular that the men's eyes lit up with an incredible glow, and they seemed capable of speaking directly to his mind, implying that these are aliens.
Right.
They made him promise to destroy his findings and cease all of his research into the subject. Bender was so scared that he was only too happy to comply, and he never published his proof.
Now, see, that's weird.
Now, could you say that story is made up because he never had proof in the first place, or could that story have been real?
Well, if he never had proof in the first place, what did he gain by saying he was threatened? I mean, did he get money out of it? Did he get money to tell his story about being threatened, and therefore he made more money than he would have on the other story? I mean, like you said, follow the money. What would be his motivation for doing that?
I don't know. Supposedly, there's a video that captured two men in black who allegedly entered a hotel in Canada and started asking questions about one of the hotel employees. The stories say that the employee in question had recently seen a UFO and had told others about his experience. Not long after, these two men showed up at his place of employment and were caught on video coming into the hotel. According to witness accounts, the men were asking people not only about the employee in question, but also about conspiracies in general. They had no eyebrows, no eyelashes, strange hypnotic eyes, bald heads, possibly disguised by wigs, and clothes that seemed to be meant for fitting in, but somehow were just enough out of place to raise alarm bells.
See, black-eyed kids grown up. I rest my case, Your Honor.
People began to question if they were clandestine government agents, beings from another world in disguise, or simply the product of a clever hoax. Regardless of the answer, there is something hair-raising about the two men in suits walking into a hotel in the middle of the day and asking strange questions about one of the employees and leaving just as mysteriously as they arrived.
Now, he died just recently, March 29th, 2016. Albert Bender died. I don't know why I know this name, and it's killing me. Other than he was apparently one of the biggest originators of this Men in Black story. So it's just killing me. I cannot place the name.
Maybe he's in one of the movies. They have a character named after him or
Maybe
something.
they have him. I mean, Bender on Futurama.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as soon as I heard the name. But we're almost at the point where we're gonna have to play truth or tale. But I just wanted to ask: do you guys, think that this is a hoax? That this is people making up stories? I mean, what do you think about it?
I mean, I think it's completely possible that there were government agents that had shown up and talked to people, about their UFO sightings in the 40s and 50s. And I think that's where all this urban legends, let's call them urban legends, came from. As far as them appearing and threatening people, I don't know. I think dude had a bad dream. So.
See, I think I would agree. I think it started out as a government agency trying to gather information about UFO sightings and landings and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And over time, out of fear, back then, if the government came to talk to you, back then people had a lot of respect for the government. And if the government showed up at your door, it was scary. Oh my God, what are they going to do to me now? And I think out of, irrational fear, people were hearing things or interpreting language into what they thought was a threat, which may not have been a threat at all.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I'm right with you.
And from that, the stories grew, like Sushi said.
Right.
I mean, because some of these are pretty fantastical. The people might be real, like this vendor guy. You might be able to do search and find the guy, but where's the evidence for their stories? That's just what gets me.
And and I think that there probably were government officials that were sent out to investigate the claims, to try to decide if there was a threat of some sort they needed to be aware of, and somebody probably felt intimidated by it and said they got threatened, and then the stories got started, and then they retold it until they became a government agency that was bent on shutting all UFO theories down, because they did a poor job of it, I like to say, if that was what their job was. Of course,
that was the goal.
It is the government, but these stories are still around from the 40s. And we're still in 2016. We're in 2016 now and still having experiences. So they either did a poor job or people were misinterpreting what they were seeing. Because I just don't see Men in Black, the government, wasting their time trying to shut all this down. And here we are this many years later and still having the same problem. I don't know.
Now, you brought up something that made me think of an interesting question. Do you think the Men in Black still exist today? I don't think they do. Everybody's got a camera on their cell phone.
Exactly.
If they existed today, we'd have a picture.
Yeah.
Well, there are pictures. Go look them up. You'll find plenty of pictures of Men in Black they claim are real. And they may be government agencies, but they may work for the FBI or IRS. I mean, whatever. It's not like nobody's going to wear a black suit but a secret government agency.
Well, I don't know if you know, but up until about the 1980s, almost 1990s, there were a lot of corporations that had a dress code, and the dress code was black suits. IBM was one of those. I had friends that used to work at IBM and came to work at the company that I was working at, who would talk about the dress code and how many black suits that they had. They're never going to run out of a black suit to go to a funeral.
You know what? Those were MIBs, and you just didn't know it. They had their cover was working for IBM. Oh, IBM, MIB, same letters. I just broke this wide open. You're welcome.
Yeah, there was a joke that IBM stood for I've been moved, because they got moved all the time. They were as bad as being a soldier in the military who got transferred.
Nice. All right, so final thoughts. I think this is a misunderstanding with stories added onto it and urban legends built around it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I do too.
Okay.
Well, I think this is the first time we've all agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, I just, I've seen people, doing the paranormal thing that we do. You encounter and see people jump to conclusions and make illogical assumptions and put two things together that don't go together. And you're just like, really? How did you come to that? How? And in a stressful situation, people overreact sometimes. And they freak out and they do stupid stuff. And then, they tell a story and they're the center of attention, so the story gets huge. And they start adding to it. And then by the time the story gets around, it's all out of hand. And I think that's a lot of the case here. What the heck is beeping over here? But I think that's what it is. But
Yeah.
It is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't.
There you go.
All right, so we are going to move on to Truth or Tale, and if you're not familiar with this game, it's basically where I have 3 stories that I'm going to read. You have to decide if it's crazy enough to be true or just so stupid that I made it up, and honestly, sometimes you can't tell the difference. So, number 1. A superhuman runner could jog 350 miles nonstop. Truth or Tale? There's a superhuman runner that can jog 350 miles nonstop. Truth or Tale?
What? 350 miles? That would be like running
A lot.
to Nashville, from Chattanooga to Nashville and back.
That would be like running from Washington, D.C. to Virginia Beach. And back.
Tail.
Okay. And so, Spring, you said truth, and Sushi, you said tail.
I'm going tail.
All right. That
And chat room split also.
okay. That is the truth.
It was in the news. That's the only reason I knew.
Yeah.
How?
He's got a genetic disorder. So, Dean
Obviously.
Carnes has a rare genetic condition that enables him to run continuously for days at a time. The 53-year-old athlete is certainly no stranger to endurance running, having competed in some of the world's toughest races, including one which took him across the frozen wastes of Antarctica. He has completed 50 marathons in 50 days across 50 states, and on one occasion even ran nonstop for a staggering 80 hours over a
What is
distance
wrong
of
with him?
350 miles without stopping to sleep. Carnazes maintains that his superhuman endurance can be attributed to a rare condition that enables his body to rapidly flush lactic acid from his system faster than it can build up. So,
I can't even run around the block.
me
The
neither.
story that I heard was something about 10 humans that have real superhuman powers,
Right.
and he was one of them.
Was I on
Wow.
there?
I don't remember the other ones.
Yeah,
I guess he has to eat as he goes, right?
I guess.
I mean-
what does he do if he has to poop?
Right?
Maybe he just drinks, so he has to pee.
Yeah.
Just keep running. We wear the
Evil said,
pens,
I can't
or
even walk to the kitchen. I'm with you, Evil.
I know. I get out of breath going up the stairs.
I get out of breath thinking about going up the stairs. Yeah. So, but I think that's interesting. So,
Wow.
diapers, Paul. Diapers, that's what Tater said.
I know that's what it's like. Depends. That's what.
All right, so number 2. A new study shows that we cannot control our thoughts. Truth or tale?
True.
A new study shows that we cannot control our thoughts. Truth or tale?
True. At least from my own personal experience.
Yeah.
See, I would have to ask some questions before I could answer that. Does it mean a normal consciousness in meditation when you're dreaming all the time? Because in meditation, you can control your thoughts. If you've meditated long enough and you've practiced long enough, you can control your thoughts. So I would have to say false, but I got a feeling it's more based on a certain state of consciousness, which could make it true.
Right.
Some of us can't control our thoughts making it to our mouths.
That's me. That is definitely me.
Yes, evil.
All
That
right.
is so
So that is the truth. New study shows that we cannot control our own thoughts. Current research has shown that we have more control over our actions than over our thoughts. Once a thought or an urge enters our consciousness, that the state of being aware of one's surroundings, it is involuntary going against one's intentions. Lead researcher Ezekiel Marcella, an associate professor at San Francisco State University and a pioneer in theory, conducted a recent study and states, based on the research, the reflexive imagery task reveals that following the activation of action sets, conscious contents can arise involuntarily and systematically in response to external stimuli. In the most basic version of the paradigm, participants are presented with visual objects and instructed not to think of the names of the objects, which is challenging. Here we addressed one criticism of RIT, that the effect arises only for automatic processes, e.g. forms of cued memory retrieval, and not for more complex processes like symbol manipulation. The human brain is complex and its mysteries are still being discovered. Marcella and his team taught a group of 32 students of the university to play a word manipulation game based on Pig Latin. The first letter of every word was moved to the end of the word, followed by an AY. That is Pig Latin.
yes, it's Pig Latin.
For example, cow became alke. That's freaking Pig Latin. This task involved complex symbol manipulations associated with processes in the frontal cortex. Next, a series of words appeared on the screen, and the students. I'm sorry, I started reading this. But, they're basically saying you can't control your thoughts. There's like 2 more pages of this. But no. That's interesting, but I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. Even they said in this article that there's still a lot more to be understood.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so number...
And that answers the question, when the thought enters your consciousness.
Yeah.
So when you're self-aware and not in meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they weren't studying people who, in a meditative state, they were studying students.
Yeah, they're saying, don't think of a rhinoceros. Guess what you're thinking about?
Yep.
A cheeseburger. All right, so number 3. E-skin could turn your body into a walking video display. Truth or tell?
Oh,
E-skin
neat.
could turn your body into a walking video display.
Oh, no, that sounds interesting. They're doing a lot of neat things with eSkin.
Yes.
In whatever that new skin is that they're able to create now. I'm going to say
yeah, true. I'm going true also.
Got at least one true in the chat room.
Okay.
2 trues.
All right.
I want to be a rainbow.
I think you already are. All right. So that is the truth.
Ooh.
Now that's just cool.
That would be cool.
E-skin turned your body into a walking video display. Tired of your tattoo? Would you like to press a button and change a tattoo to the name of the latest person or band you plan to be with or follow forever? A new ultra-thin, ultra-flexible organic material developed by researchers in Japan may soon give you that ability. Oh, and some other stuff too, like a continuous on-skin LED display of pulse rate, blood oxygen levels, and other things doctors might be interested in. Science Advances reports that Takeo Somiya and Dr. Tomoyuki Yokato at the University of Tokyo's Graduate School of Engineering developed a protective film that is less than 2 micrometers thick by alternating layers of silicon oxynitrate, a highly flexible inorganic material, and parylene, an organic polymer used in moisture barriers. The film prevented oxygen and water vapor from passing through, giving it a useful lifetime of several days rather than hours. The ultra-thin film was strong enough for the researchers to attack transparent indium tin oxide electrodes without damaging it, thus turning it into a transparent skin covering display when polymer lights with polymer light emitting diodes were connected to it. The ultra-thin PLEDs were low heat and used minimal power, allowing them to be attached comfortably to skin. This combination will allow the film to display things like pulse rate. By adding photodetectors, it can become a blood oxygen sensor. So, and then they're saying that you could also like make tattoos and everything and change it whenever you wanted to.
Neat.
I wonder how much it would cost at first.
Well, if I ever have to get a skin graft.
There you go.
You're going to get LEDs put in?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That is
Might
interesting.
boost my morale during my recovery.
You know, it reminds me of something for some strange reason. One of the signs that the devil has returned or the devil has come or whatever is that everyone has the same tattoo on their body. Now, in legend, it's supposed to be a 666 tattoo.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what if it's an LED?
Right.
What if that becomes the thing?
Yeah.
I have one tattoo. It hurt. I'm never getting another one. One was enough.
Well, it would have to be one of those things that was required by the government, and everyone would have to have it before it would be the mark of the beast. But yeah. Yep. But unfortunately, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of the Ænigma Project. Thanks to everyone who listened, all the people in the chat room, all the people who listened in various and sundry other places. We appreciate it. Don't
That was
forget.
fun. I want to go watch Men in Black now.
Yeah. Next week, our topic is going to be astrology around the world, and sushi. And Spring is going to have a lot of answers for us because I'm going to be asking some weird ones, and she will have every answer you've ever wanted to know about astrology around the world.
And if I don't, I'll make it up.
Yeah, she's going to kill me later. But thanks to everyone who listened. I hope everyone has a great Monday, a great rest of the week, and we will see you all next Monday. Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.